That's right. Thank you for coming through. Um, you have your own podcast. Well, first, Chatty Patty DC. That's a lovely name. Where'd you get that from? Are you always talkative?
Well, absolutely. That's what I'm getting my master's in is journalism. I've always had a passion for public speech, for pop culture, for politics, all of those things. And my name is Patricia. So, as a joke, my friends used to call me Patty Mayonnaise, any variety of Patty just to, tease me.
Yeah.
And I hated it, but then it just kind of grew on me. And I remember I was just babbling about something that I had seen in social media, and a good friend of mine was like, "Oh my gosh, you're such a chatty Patty." And it just stuck. And my focus with what I write about and with culture and things like that is in DC, especially because of the gentrification that's happening and because of some of the loss of culture that's happening there. So I decided to focus my blog and my series on Washington, DC. So that's where Chatty Patty DC came from.
Okay. So mostly on the DC area, gentrification. It's crazy now because don't get offended. I go back to my old grandma's house in Northwest or something like that. Now I see the gay flag, and I see a white woman running with a dog, and
So, and we highlight that too. And so,
made me shed a tear. Hey, Trump, do you remember that old commercial with the Native American on the side of the road, and then a white man throws some trash? That's how I feel. Be driving down DC, shed a tear. But go ahead.
And so that's another interesting thing that you highlight is that the LGBT community is another marginalized, minority, oppressed group. However, in the DC area, they don't realize how they're infringing and pushing out, displacing African Americans. And I actually interviewed someone who identifies as trans. They're African American, and they talk about how they go to certain bars that are gay bars or LGBT friendly bars, and they're not hired. They're overlooked, and they're also oppressed by the members of that community as well. So it's really interesting how people who claim they understand oppression and sometimes highlight the civil rights movement and things that happen to black people.
Sometimes piggyback.
Sometimes piggyback off of our oppression, then in turn oppress us and displace us within our own communities. Those things are very interesting. I'm glad you actually highlighted that.
The person that you spoke with, that he said he identifies as gay and he's black.
So he identifies as a woman. He's trans. She, yes. So I'm still new to learning the proper pronouns and things like that.
They gonna get you.
No. My heart's in the right place, y'all. Don't get me. She, yes, she identifies as a woman and lives her life as a woman, but unfortunately, in those communities that are predominantly white, the LGBT communities that are predominantly white spaces, there's no space for her there. She's not hired. She's not looked at. She actually recounted a story where she was asked to leave a space.
Damn.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, like you said, how they use the black struggle, but then they do that to their own people,
Because at the end of the day, we're black, and there's no hiding that, no matter what.
But that's one of the things I don't understand is how some of the black gay people out there, I love y'all too, they feel like they identify first as gay instead of being black. But they don't understand at the end of the day, you black.
So I think for and I don't want to be the voice of the LGBT community because they have issues that I clearly have a privilege to not identify with. But I will say how one identifies is based on their experience. So if most of the trauma that you received was from one aspect of your being. So if, most of his trauma was because he was gay and it was from black people who abused him or what have you, then maybe that's how he identifies. I know some women who identify as woman first because their experience, the majority of their trauma or the majority of their issues came from their womanhood, not so much the black experience. So I think that's how sometimes people figure out how to navigate life and what their predominant identity is, even when there's that intersectionality.
Got you. Yeah, and when it comes to that and just how the media is used to that marginalized groups, and when it comes to people like Lizzo and how certain things feels like the mainstream people are hyping her up, or she has like someone's hyping her head up. I'm not sure if it's those, you gonna hate me, those insecure chicks out there, insecure chicks that, oh, good for her, she's loving her body, but it was disturbing.
Okay, so I love that you bring up Lizzo, because I think we live in a society now where anyone who is a part of something or a group that's marginalized, as we know, there is such a thing as fat shaming. We do know that there's body shaming and things like that. So whenever someone is a part of some marginalized group, whatever negative action, whatever thing that they do that could be deemed as negative, it's overlooked, or we're told that we can't critique it because we're in some way shaming them. When it comes to Lizzo, I love her music. If her social media, her going to award shows, her concerts, we sign up for her to show up however she sees fit, right? But at a basketball game, an NBA game, I think it's intellectually dishonest to compare what she had on to what the cheerleaders had on.
Or what Rihanna wore.
Right, right. And especially because even if Rihanna came to the game with a thong on and the t-shirt, the butt part cut out, I've never seen Rihanna twerk on the Jumbotron with her butt out like that. And, a lot of people compared Lizzo's outfit to the cheerleaders' uniforms. Well, I used to be a cheerleader, and I remember that there was a lot of feedback given to us about the placement of our short shorts or our Spankies. So we would actually use hairspray to make sure that they didn't ride up when we were performing. The same thing with gymnasts. So you're not seeing your whole behind, your whole bare back, which Lizzo was displaying. I think that there's clearly a time and place for everything. I will say this one thing. Someone said you can't dictate what is good or bad in a place that serves alcohol. So I kind of understand where they're going with that as far as, the timing and the placement of what she wore. But overall, I don't agree with it. And it's not because she's a big girl. People use Nicki Minaj as an example, Rihanna as an example. If they had those outfits on, I would say the same thing. The difference is she was on the Jumbotron twerking, and that's what made headlines.
I do love big women, my last chick was big, but, with certain things you can't be, and her ass was flat.
Oh, no.
It was just chapless, but I digress. But I love women. I love big women. Have you been married?
Yes, I have been. I am no longer married, unfortunately, but I have been. Yeah.
Okay. I'm on my second go.
Okay.
I feel like one of the reasons why I started doing this show and actually doing Ish Talk is just being able to express myself and learn from my mistakes. And being 30 now, I was my birthday couple last week.
Happy belated birthday.
Tashi, thank you. Thank you. Just to be, and I just think about all the regrets I had in my life. And would you think your marriage was a regret or things?
No. If you would have asked me this maybe 2 years ago, I think I would have said that, getting the divorce was a regret. But where I am now, I think that everything that I've experienced has happened to me for a reason. And had I not gone through that relationship, I wouldn't have grown into the woman that I am today. And I really like the woman that I am today. And had I not experienced those things, I don't think I would value the man that, the universe has for me in my future. So I don't regret it. And I'm actually really good friends with my ex-husband. We talk almost every day. We talk about the kids. We talk about our business ventures. We support one another because we come from the understanding that as long as we are financially and mentally and physically healthy, our children will be that way as well.
Right.
And so we're not as close as Will and Jada are with his ex-wife Sharice going on family vacations and things like that, but we
Right.
do have a friendship. And I think for a lot of people, especially when I started dating again, that was uncomfortable, especially in our community. There's baby mama, baby daddy drama
Right.
and things like that, and we don't have that. So, yeah.
For me, it was the first couple years, like the first year after the baby was born. That's when the things started, and I feel like that happens a lot with a lot of people, a lot of young people. Like you guys have a baby, and then like baby's not even a year old, but y'all broke up or drama and stuff like that. Does that happen? Am I right about that?
Yes, absolutely. So, well, you also made a comment that you're 30. You just turned 30.
Right.
So that leads me to believe you got married very young.
Right, like 20.
Okay. So what I've learned is that because I was married at the same age is that we're growing and evolving in our 20s, and we're not fully the people who we're going to be, so you're doing a lot of trial and error. You don't even know what your life's purpose is and what you want to do with life sometimes, right? And as you're trying to figure these things out for yourself, you're also having to consider another person and their feelings, and sometimes what your path is supposed to be doesn't line up with what they want in the relationship. So that's number one. Number two, parenting is just a whole nother added level of stressors. So not only are you a young parent and a young husband trying to figure out what your life's mission is, now you also have to navigate, the world of parenting and how to be a good father and how to, take care of this little one and make sure they don't roll off the bed, and are you feeding them enough during the day, and all of those things. It's a lot. And a lot of times, I tell all my friends, don't get married before 30.
Don't get married before 30.
Don't get married. I don't think
But you're getting pressure from your mom because you already got the baby from the dude. You better get married.
If you can wait on the baby and the marriage, I would say enjoy your 20s and figure out who you are and what you want. So that way, whoever you partner with complements that. Now, if you happen to have a child, prior to the marriage, I still say don't allow people to pressure you into marriage, because for me, the best thing that you can do for your child is to give them the example of a healthy relationship and a healthy marriage. Just getting married because you had a baby does not mean that marriage is going to be healthy. And I actually, I grew up in the church, and I've experienced how that can cause some pressures as well. You had a baby, now y'all got to get married. And then those marriages don't last because the only reason that y'all were together in the first place was because of the bond of the child. I think you can co-parent in a healthy way where both parents are physically present equally, where, and not force a marriage if that's not what's supposed to happen.
One of the things you talk about is how, on your podcast, you talked about the church, and you talk about how Black women, they're doing so much good, and when it comes to money, and y'all got to deal with B- dudes or subprime niggas.
Oh, Lord.
Subprime loan niggas. Shit, I lost my train of thought. But just how you guys got to deal with subprime dudes, and how money is an issue when you guys are young.
What are your thoughts on that?
Some of y'all Black women, you guys, is good. Some of the rhetoric y'all are hearing is wrong. I like, what's the girl from Baby Boy?
I can't think of who's Taraji?
Taraji.
Okay.
Yeah. She's been speaking out, saying how Black women, it's a myth out there about the strong Black women, and how you do need a man out there, and a man do need to lead a household. And you agree with that, and you saying how, I'm not sure if you or your what's your co-host name? Ari
Luan, shout out to you, sweetheart.
Right. I'm not sure if it's you or her that said how it's cool, we can both, if I got to work, I can't be cleaning the house too.
Right.
So I feel that. So once I heard that, I was like, all right, let me start cleaning the house. Let me start doing these dishes or something, because my wife, she works too. Mm-hmm. But I'm old fashioned like you. Mm-hmm. I do feel like if you got to clean the house. I'm not doing no dishes. I'm not doing no clothes. But
so, okay, go ahead.
She does work full time like me, but hearing you say that make me want to do more of my share in the house, since I'm not really at the man in the house working the only house and she's at home and stuff like that. But go ahead.
Okay, so no, I can respect that, and I am so glad that I inspired you to help pick up around the house just a little bit.
Pick up a sock.
Oh,
That's
come
all
on
I
now.
gotta do.
Come on now. So so I'm military, and I met my ex-husband. We were both in the Air Force together, so I can say we did pretty much the same job, worked the same hours, were a part of the same exercises, had to train on the same weapons and all of that stuff. So if we're doing all of that at work, and I know the type of stress that I feel as a woman at work and the type of stress he feels as a man at work are pretty equivalent. When I come home, I have to work a full-time job again and keep the house clean and cook and rear our children while I make him feel like the king of the castle.
Right.
I think that's unfair. So if you are traditional in that sense and you want your woman at home to, clean and cook and rear the kids while you go and get the bacon or what have you, you need to provide that environment for her. And if you're not providing that environment for her, you have to be fair, in the roles of the relationship. Even if it's, okay, babe, you do the laundry and I'll run the dishwasher, or you do the laundry and the dishes and I'll clean the bathrooms and vacuum. Those duties have to be split up because at this point you both are working just as hard as one another coming into the household.
Right. And yeah, do a work. You gotta work full time and you gotta please a woman. Shit.
But what's so hard about pleasing a woman? What do you think is the difficulty in pleasing a woman? Excuse me, y'all.
I feel like
I'm a little sick.
I feel like I gotta make this calendar out. On Monday, I'm gonna rub her feet. On Tuesday, I'm gonna hold her hand while we drive because she likes that shit. Or I gotta go down on her once a week.
Wait a minute. You schedule it out?
Sometimes I got to, because I will lose my focus and just be like going my own way. I gotta consider someone else. So that's part of being married. I gotta have a calendar out. Okay, I'm gonna eat you out on Friday.
Oh my gosh.
On Sunday, I'm gonna give you a good compliment. Say you good cooking, baby. That type of shit.
Well, at least you're thoughtful about it and you put that much thought into it. So
the first marriage I wasn't.
Okay.
I would just be doing my own shit, driving around with AJ and shit.
So what I really appreciate is what you're telling me is you learned from your previous marriage. You learned maybe her faults, but you also learned your faults, and you are circumventing those things in this current marriage. Look at that growth. Go ahead, 30. I like that.
But I'm not a killer, but don't tip me. I do have my flashbacks.
We all do. We all do. You're human, relationships are difficult, period. And so I think if we look at our relationships the way that we look at our jobs, and I know people are just rock with me for a second. With your job, whatever your profession is, there's not enough training. There's always training. There's always tips. There's always something that you can learn to be more proficient in that job. Take that into your marriage and into your parenting. There's always seminars, there's YouTube videos, there's books, there's classes, there's courses, there's counseling, there's all kinds of things that you can add to your toolkit to be a better, significant other and to be a better parent. And I think sometimes once we get married or once we have the kid or the children, we kind of go into autopilot and we just live day to day and get things done so that we could get back to work. But I think we should change our focus or find that balance where, you're getting things done at work, but also being proficient at home, You
gotta compartmentalize.
Men are actually better at compartmentalizing than women. So you have the capacity to do it. You just have to put it into action.
Okay. Since I've been out the game for a while, what is the state? I'm not in that type of game, but what's the state of the black man, single black man out there?
It depends.
In the dating scene.
It depends. I've come across.
Because I got homeboys that don't even want to mess with no girl with kids.
Oh yes.
And I'm like, bro, you had a stepdad. Like,
I'm not
mad
at that. I'm not mad at that. Hold on.
You're not mad at that?
No. I'm gonna tell you why.
And my dad I got a stepdad. Like, how can I say nah when I was raised this way?
If
If it wasn't for this man, I wouldn't be here.
there are men who do, there are a lot of men actually who do not have children who are in their 30s and older. And I've come across several of them during, several of them, but I met several men during my time dating who did not have children. And I actually had one gentleman tell me he thought I was amazing, but he wanted his first child to be with someone who didn't have children, and that be an experience that they shared together. And I couldn't do anything but respect that. He made those smart decisions, if that's, how you look at it. He made the decision to be safe and to wrap it up and to be specific about the types of women that he dated, to avoid having children and to focus on his career. And so now that he's ready to have something long term, he gets to make the decision and say, you're a great person, but what I'm looking for is this. I think I think both men and women should be allowed to do that. And I think that it's fair to say up front, hey, I'm not built for stepmom or stepdad life. And it's honest.
Some people aren't.
Sorry.
I had to be like, you all right?
Can I get a napkin?
Oh, yeah.
But excuse me, guys. I got the flu shot last Tuesday, and they told me I wouldn't get sick, and I got sick. It was terrible. So my apologies.
That is a conspiracy.
Conspiracy Patty.
Conspiracy Patty.
I'm telling you, y'all, avoid the flu shot. I really got sick. I sound like I'm going through puberty again. It's terrible.
All right. So yeah, I never got the flu shot. I ain't gonna do that because I ain't trying to go out like Willie Lump Lump.
Just eat your veggies. That's all you got to do. Eat your veggies.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Where can they reach you at for your podcast?
So my podcast is on SoundCloud. It's also on Apple Podcasts. You can also find it on Spotify. It's On Muvas, ONMUVAS, On Muvas Podcast. And you can follow us on Instagram, and we'll put the links out there for you on that page as well.
Okay. And some of the things you talk about growing up in the church and how they treated you a different way when you had the baby and before you had the baby and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And you talked about being in the corporate world, corporate thugging.
We do.
What else?
We also talk about dating as mothers. Mm-hmm. We talk about co-parenting. That's one of our favorites. One of our
co-parenting.
Yes.
It felt like it got to a point where I'll be like, what are you supposed to do? Like when your kids say, "Why can't you and mommy get back together?"
Now that's tough.
I'm like, listen, this is what happened. Well, apparently the mom told her was that daddy wanted to party too much.
Oh no. So, well, how old is your daughter?
10.
Okay. So she's at an age where she can understand truth and when parents are BSing them. I have an 11-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And no, I'm lying. A 1.5-year-old. And so my 11-year-old has always been very observant. And there was no way that I could ever lie to him about why his father and I didn't work out, because there were a lot of things that he saw. His father was never disrespectful, to me in front of him, but
right.
He saw when we weren't gelling and when the household was just off. And so I couldn't lie. And, I was very honest. And I broke down, we came together and broke down why our relationship didn't work together. To a level that he could understand at 11 years old. At the time, he was 7. So we broke it down to him in a way that he could understand at 7. And we said, hey, it didn't work out romantically. We still have love for each other. But it's best for us to move on as friends to raise you both because we don't get along.
Right.
And it was as simple as that.
I told her, you see me, you see how happy I am right now? If I go back to your mom, I ain't gonna be that happy. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you dig? And she's like, I dig.
No, you're not supposed to say stuff like that. You never don't down the other person. You don't down the other person.
Oh no, I don't do that. I give her praise. We came a long way from me going to court over some bullshit to now we spent 4th of July together. We We went to her house, and she has her own.
How long have
family,
y'all
too.
been divorced?
A long time.
Okay.
Long time.
Okay. So time has healed some of those wounds.
And I'm lucky I don't have no crazy baby mama. I feel so sorry for my cousins out there. They got to deal with these petty baby mamas. And I understand because, you know, it got to a stage. I think every woman has that stage when they want to be petty or they hurt and they can't see that dude being with someone else with their baby.
It depends on how the relationship ended as well. So there may be some emotional, like residual emotional feelings or something over the breakup. If it was traumatic or there's still feelings there, of course there's that, you know, the underlying need to be petty, even though sometimes they don't even think that they're being petty. Some of the actions that some of the women do when it comes to co-parenting are driven by their desire to be petty because they're still hurt, you know? I had to get over that. For me, it was more important that my children saw their father and I getting along than it was for me to be petty when he decided to move on, honestly. I wanted whatever vision that they had of their father to be driven by his actions and not what mommy said. Because what happens is when your children get older, they'll revisit all the stuff that you said as a parent to them, and they'll be able to decipher what was bullshit and what was accurate.
Yeah, kids are recorders. I feel
Absolutely.
like my daughter has a little dot on her belly button. Boop.
You remember stuff that your parents said to you when you were
Right.
younger, and you're like, wait a minute, that don't
Right.
make sense.
Right.
That does not make sense. Why did you tell me that? You know?
So, do you also talk about the Harriet movie?
I have not seen the Harriet movie.
You haven't seen it? All right, what about Queen of Slim?
I've not seen Queen and Slim either.
How do you feel about UK actors playing African American roles?
I actually do not have a problem with it. What I would say is as long as there is a respect from these actors given to the Americans that they're portraying. For example, Idris Elba has portrayed American roles.
He did a good job.
His entire
The Wire. He played in Baltimore.
career.
Yeah.
I didn't know he was from the UK until like 3 years ago. He was always from Baltimore to me. So as long as they give the proper respect, because we've had American actors play Mandela and things like that. So as long as the appropriate respect has been given their entire career. Now, if you go and dig up some tweets and they're talking about how African Americans are so ghetto and don't have a culture, then why are you playing our characters? Why are you playing our historically significant characters? You know, you don't have a respect for our culture. You say we're a cultureless people.
Right.
You say we're ghetto and all of these other things, and we make the diaspora look bad, but then you want to make money off of the backs of our ancestors. No,
Right.
shut it down.
Right, and they have their own problems in their own country.
Absolutely.
And they could have been the same people that enslaved us.
Absolutely.
And I feel like they're trying to replace us. I feel like there's like agenda behind it. If you got someone playing Harriet and the same person is going to play Aretha Franklin or somebody.
Yes, she is playing Aretha.
And the same African dude that was in Get Out was going to be playing Fred Hampton. I'm like, God damn, you telling me that the same sister from How to Get Away from Murder could have been Harriet or
Right.
that type of stuff? Like,
Now, I would prefer that an African American play Fred Hampton, specifically because of the way black men are treated in America. I think that they would have a better cultural understanding of the importance of him and of his story and what happened to him. However, if is it Daniel Kaluuya?
Right.
If he does the job and he gets it done and he just is masterful in that portrayal, then, you know, I won't be mad at it. But I could see why culturally an African American, you know, would just resonate better.
they should have had me, so no, I'm just joking. But thank you so much, Chatty Patty. Can you give them your information one more time where they can reach you out?
Absolutely. ChattyPattyDC.com is my website. That's where I'll be launching the Gentrification series. It launches actually on Monday morning at 8 a.m. and then it'll be ongoing over the next 12 months. So if anybody has any stories of how gentrification has impacted them in the area, please reach out to me, ChattyPattyDC@gmail.com. I am also on all social media platforms at Chatty Patty DC. And please excuse me, I'm sick, y'all. I am normally not hacking and blowing my
But
nose
she
on
came
air,
through, though.
but
She came through like Jordan in the flu
listen.
game. Hey, I appreciate it.
I am a professional. If I say I'm gonna be somewhere, I'm gonna be there.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. I am.